Break it down now.
All right, let's do it. Q3 Major League Baseball betting derivative show. We do it every quarter on the Beating the Book podcast. We have done it every quarter since, I'm going to guess, the year 2011 on a podcast. That's right, we were podcasting in the dark ages. Not only
at least
it
might have been 2008. I think. I'm thinking that's when we started doing it.
Really?
You know better than our, I guess, Lawson, the betting dork historian.
Yeah,
he would know that for sure.
We did it all the way back in the betting dork days. This is Mark Borchard, everybody. He is Basewinner at Basewinner on Twitter, basewinner.com. Does the Bet US show every morning on Major League Baseball. And what we try to do is go through stats through 3 quarters of the season and figure out what of these stats is narrative, what is predictive, what we can glean from this betting moving forward. And we get progressively more proprietary as the show goes on. So we do some ones that are readily available, best money line teams, best run line teams in Major League Baseball, best starting pitchers if you had backed them blindly. And then we narrow that down to umpires. Mark has a lot of historical data on umpires when they call balls and strikes, whether they tend to go over or under as home plate umpires. And then we'll do first 5 stats, which are always, and I just took a peek at them. Once again, unbelievable. And first innings with starters. How you doing, man? Your season going okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good, dude. I'm ahead on the show. I think the chart plays could be a little bit better, but sometimes you have years like that. But on the show, I'm ahead, like, gosh, over 20 units. So
nice.
Happy about that. Mostly parlays, I must say. So you guys who are parlay haters, well, just go look at, go to MLB Show Bet US on YouTube and search, and we will come up. Not to be confused with MLB The Show, which I'm going to talk about a little bit here at some point during the show.
MLB The Show. Okay, let me ask you a question before we get in all these stats. Let me just ask you some current things that are happening in baseball and what your numbers tell you. As we do this morning, it just so happens it's the morning where the AL West and the NL West are both tied. Mariners and Astros, obviously, in the AL West. Dodgers and Padres now in the NL West. If people were betting those divisions, and obviously based on the numbers, the prices where those two teams per division are currently, where is the value according to Basewinner numbers?
Well, I can tell you the percentage. I don't know. I haven't looked at the prices today, but like from a simulation standpoint, Seattle is at 60% to win that division. So that would be what, minus 150-ish? Yeah. So I really like this Seattle team. I simulated the playoffs. They're 10-1 to win the World Series. I think they should be like 6-1.
Seattle minus 105. So the value according to your numbers on that.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other one, I guess you're going to bring up. So I'll just host the show, Gil. Why not? Go ahead and the NL West. I've got the Dodgers 61%, the Padres 39%. So that'll be 2 really cool division races. I like all 4 teams. Like all 4 teams rate pretty good by the Basewinner numbers.
Give me your numbers in that again. What were they?
Dodgers 61%. San Diego Padres 39%.
San Diego Padres 39%. So you're talking about plus 155-ish. They are at plus 175. So a little bit of value on the Padres.
Yeah. That was cool, man. I was ahead of the curve, Gil. I got them at plus 750 at the deadline. So I'm hoping they can come in because I have a lot of stuff that's dead with the Diamondbacks. Because the Diamondbacks, they had their issues this year.
They did. And they quit appropriately. But are feisty.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Yeah, they're feisty.
I think that they're an over team, and they've been competitive in their last 10 games. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they're competitive in the way that the Giants were before these last 4 games they lost. But both teams have essentially said, this is not our season, right? Have at it with our players.
I think so. I think from a personnel standpoint, they have. I mean, I think they would have retained Suarez if they thought that they were going to go. But it's an easy season to write off. They lost Burns, they lost Martinez, they lost Puck. Those are probably arguably top 25 pitchers in anybody's rating. So that was kind of a blow to them. But I think while we're talking about the D-backs, I'll just say this. I think that they're an over team. Now, if you look at the unders over the last month, they're more of an under team from a result standpoint. But looking at the offense, they're still a pretty good offense, top 10 offense, and the bullpen is the worst in baseball right now as it's composed I think they've got a guy that's on the injured list that comes back in. But anyway, they're bottom 5, bottom 10 bullpen. I think that looking to play the Diamondbacks over might be a good idea for the rest of the season.
I don't know. I know you don't deal with awards as much, but you have hit some big ones over the years. Robbie Ray, famously on a July 31st, you called it 100-1, and he ends up winning the Cy Young that year as a Blue Jay. This year, I'm just curious about. I know Skeens had a bad outing, but Skeens is still the prohibitive favorite in the National League, and I think he should be. But in the American League, everybody just figured they'd pencil in Tarek Skubal. But if you go to the Tom Tango Cy Young tracker, and he has on his final numbers at the end of each year, last 19 years, he has correctly picked 32 of the last 38 Cy Young winners, the eventual Cy Young winners. So his final stats, his final point value, because he has a formula. It's a very simple formula. It's innings pitched divided by 2 minus earned runs plus strikeouts divided by 10 plus wins. It's none of these advanced stats you and I talk about. Just you plug that stuff in. And right now he has, right at this moment, this doesn't mean this is going to be the final stats, but he has Garrett Crochet as a bit of a as having more points currently than Tarek Skubal. And obviously Crochet is in plus money. Now, Tango himself might say that he thinks Skubal is more sustainable. I'm not sure. Last I heard from him, that's what he said. But would you see any value on Crochet?
I don't think so. I think for me, the numbers are far enough apart. You look at just from a base winner ERA standpoint, Crochet's at 2.67. That's very good, but Skubal best in baseball at 2.19. I'm surprised that, and I guess this is more of a wins loss thing. And I know Logan Gilbert lost some time due to injury, but his base winner ERA 2.31. That's nice. It's second in baseball, Gil.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting things. I don't know, is there and before we get into the stats, last thing, is there a bet out there, whether it's divisions, pennant, World Series, maybe it's a make-miss playoffs, anything, any category that you can think of, any market, that is like the best bet of the bunch according to your numbers?
I think getting Seattle in your futures is good because for me, and we talked a little bit on the show yesterday, not only are they coming through in the simulations and by the numbers, they are the best team in baseball from a run differential standpoint. You took all the components of the team: fielding, pitching, bullpen pitching, offense. They are number one in baseball, just ahead of the Dodgers. So very close, but Seattle's number one, and they're not priced like that. So I think that they're a really good opportunity to get involved, a team to get involved with, and then I kind of touched on this a little bit. We don't have a lot of Seattle Mariners playoff data because they just haven't made the playoffs a lot since they've been at T-Mobile Park, formerly known as Safeco. But I think that's going to be a pretty hard place to play come playoff time. I mean, it's very unique. They're used to playing there. It's a long trip for some of these East Coast teams. So I don't think you can, and I don't quantify that in the simulations. But I think if you were to evaluate, home field advantage, it would be right at the top, Gil.
Okay, and they appear to be built for the playoffs, not just with their acquisitions with bats at the trade deadline, but certainly from a starting pitching standpoint. And the bullpen is probably better than most people think it is also, not as outstanding as the Padres. By the way, I have a Padres-Tigers World Series matchup at 66-1 that I feel good about. Sadly, the only other one I paired the Mariners with the Giants some time ago, so that proved to be a bad bet. But Tigers-Padres, I'm still holding out hope for. Do you ever delve in those matchups for World Series matchups?
I haven't for a long time, but they sound fun.
Oh,
you do that at the start of the year then?
No, sometimes at the start, but oftentimes during. I don't do an exacta. It's not a team to beat the other. It's just a meet. And so those are widely available, something that I delve into. Let's get into these stats, Mark. Let's start with teams. Now, this exercise, again, it's a bizarro exercise. We don't think that anybody does that, but hopefully from this, we can find something that we feel is predictive moving forward, not just a nice story to tell. But if you had bet on these clubs every single game of the year, right, whether they're a favorite, whether they're a dog, which would be the teams that would have made the most for bettors, which would have hemorrhaged the most money? The number one team, do I even need to ask you at this point, Mark? Number one money team in baseball this year for bettors?
You don't, because they're an anomaly in my opinion. So, but everybody knows who they are.
Oh, let's talk about that. Milwaukee Brewers, 75-44, best record in baseball. They are now currently, as we do this morning, in their second 11-game winning streak in a span of 38 days. There have only been less than a handful of teams that have had two different 11-game winning streaks in the same season, let alone in 38 days. 2015 Blue Jays had two 11-game winning streaks, 35 Chicago Cubs, 54 Cleveland Indians. That's the list. Now, there's been win streaks beyond 11. In fact, some have doubled up 11 back-to-back to make it a 22-game winning streak. But in terms of two different 11-game winning streaks, that's the list. And again, the Brewers, have done it in 38 days, looking for a 12-game win streak against Pittsburgh today. Milwaukee would have, if you just bet them blindly every single game this year, you'd be up over 24 units. This is per covers.com. These are widely available. I have Toronto second and Miami third, San Diego fourth, the Angels fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What does Killer Sports say?
Well, Killer Sports says Brewers, Blue Jays, Marlins, Padres, Angels. So
exact same thing. There. Five. Yeah. Those five match exactly.
Not only was it close, it was right on.
It was right on.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the five that would have made you over 10 units on the year if you had bet them blindly. Now the worst, the Rockies. And by the way, if you're betting the Rockies every single game, you're doing this wrong. But if you had bet it's a two-team race, and they are so far worse than every other team money-wise. I don't think I've ever seen this before in all the years we've done this, Mark, at the Q3 mark. The Rockies and the Braves would have each cost you over 32 units this year. Now, the Braves are 51 and 68. The Rockies are 31 and 88. So with the Rockies, they just plain suck, right? And they just lose a lot of baseball games. With the Braves, they are often priced in a way that makes you think they're a lot better than they are, and this season obviously has gone by the wayside for them. But 32.03 down according to covers on Atlanta, 32.91 down on the Rockies. No one else is within like 20 units of this, Mark. You seeing the same over there?
Actually, the Braves are the number one. They've lost 44 units. So I think what the difference is whoever you're using cover, so that must be to risk. So they must be risking 100 to win. That's say right. If they're minus 140 favorites. So this is risking to win. And you're right. The Braves, their average to bet on them minus 141, which is actually high, but that's what it is. And then the Rockies are plus 191. So there's going to be a big difference as far as like how you account for that. But it goes Braves, Rockies, then third is the Yankees. Third worst, that is.
Best run line team in all of baseball. I hope people understood what Mark was saying there. It's all in the accounting why there would be a difference. 110 to win 100 versus 100 to win 91, that kind of thing, in terms of how they're counting. And it could be opening line, closing line stuff too, right, Mark? We don't know which each of these organizations is using to actually track these.
There could be, but I think I don't know if we've ever talked about this. We've done 1,000 shows together. I don't know if we ever talked about this. If you are doing it kind of the way Covers has it set up, so where you're risking 100, if let's say you bet on the Braves and their favorites, you're risking 100 to win 76, say.
Yeah.
And then if you bet the Rockies, you're risking 100 to win 1.91. Well, if you do it that way, the dogs are going to have more of an impact on your bottom line, and that's the way that I prefer to do it, is risk to win. Therefore, and I tend to play more favorites than most, but then when I do play the dogs, they're weighted a little bit heavier. So I think that's good to bring up, Gil.
By the way, we're about to do a couple hours from now, a little less than 2 hours from now, we're doing a VSiN NFL futures draft. 10 of us that are on air are doing this draft live. And one of the things that I was telling JVT and Stormy was it's really important to know how it's being graded. If it is, in fact, 110 to win 100 or 100 to win 91 in a minus 110 sport, let's say, right, where we're not thinking about money lines necessarily, we're doing spreads. But let's just use that as a mathematical comparison, that it's very important to know that, because if you're betting a large favorite, like JVT came in, right, he's like, oh, first pick Buffalo Bills to win the division. And then and so I talked to him, and he realizes now that's not that great of a pick now, because it's going to be graded 100 to win whatever that is on a minus 325, right? So that becomes a less valuable pick for him as opposed to 325 winning 100. based on how you grade it. So it's the same sort of thing here as what we're talking about in terms of how the accounting is done. Run line, which I like to call is the old de facto power rating on these teams. Now, this is, again, a bizarro exercise. No one thinks that anybody is doing this every day. But if you did bet these teams on the run line every single game, whether as a 1.5 point favorite on the run line or as a dog on the run line, in other words, if you lose as a dog but you only lose by 1 run, you get the win. The number one most profitable team on the run line this year in Major League Baseball, Mark, is...
I have the Blue Jays, Gill.
It's the Blue Jays, yeah. 70-50 on the run line. Edging the San Diego Padres, who are over 10 units, at least that's according to covers, then followed by the Brewers, who are number one on the money line. This is what really sort of amused me, was the worst run line teams. The Giants, by far, according to covers, almost down 25 units on the run line. That checks out. Just thinking about, they win a lot of close games. They get crushed when they lose. At least that's what memory serves. I'd have to check the 1-run record. Dodgers would be down 18 plus units. Nationals would be down 17 plus units. I forgot the Rockies are in there too, down 18 plus units. Nationals would be down 17 plus units. And you know who is next?
I've got Seattle up there, which is wild.
Seattle is next. So for all that talk about Seattle, they still suck on the run line. And by the way, that checks out on they win a lot of 1-run games.
So 67-53 straight up, 48-72 on the run line. So, I guess they're winning by 1 run a lot, or they could be losing by a run. They'd be losing by more than 1.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. They're winning by 1 run a lot, including this month of August, right? August, where the Brewers are 11-0. The Mariners have the second best record in the month of August at 9-1. But the Mariners, so what do they have in common? Great 1-run records. That usually leads to these gaudy records in a short time span. The Brewers are 3-0 in 1-run games here in the month of August. The Mariners are already 5-0 in 1-run games this month alone. So that'll do it, right? Where you will you'll have a run, you'll be minus 1.5, but you will lose on the run line. So that's interesting about the Mariners. Now, of any of that, is there anything that checks out to you moving forward where you're like, oh, I could see that continuing with Seattle, or I could see that continuing with the Giants getting housed on the run line?
I think that Seattle thing's interesting, and it goes to show you that is such a pitcher's park that you're gonna get a lot of 1-run games. So I think that you have to really look at bullpens when you're handicapping T-Mobile. That's super important. I just so happen to like the Seattle bullpen, but when you're looking at maybe a playoff game and a team, I'm just trying to think the Yankees have a good bullpen. I don't think Detroit's bullpen's as good as a lot of people think. So maybe a Detroit-Seattle game, well, I think Seattle would have a distinctive edge by my numbers in the bullpen there. So kind of keep that in mind as you're handicapping T-Mobile Park, Gill.
T-Mobile, I like they have these. You have the sponsors all up to date. This is starting pitchers. This we rarely ever say that there's anything predictive about this, but it's just amusing to look at which starting pitcher. So if you backed a particular you backed the team of the starting pitcher blindly every time they took the hill as a starter, who would be the most profitable pitchers in baseball this year based on the betting lines? Cal Quantrill of the Marlins is who covers as the number one. You'd be up over 11 units just blindly betting the Marlins when Cal Quantrill takes the hill. Sonny Gray of the Cardinals would have you up over 9 units, and Quintana of the Marlins would have you up over 8 units. Job of Detroit would also have you up over 8 units. So that's just random, right? Because the Marlins are 13-10 when Quantrill takes the hill, but because of their betting lines, often in plus money, that's why he stacked up the dollars for bettors. Sonny Gray, the Reds are 18-6 when he takes the hill. So in other words, even if he's not having a good start, but the bullpen saves him, let's say, with a win, and that turns around the outcome, the Cardinals are 18-6 randomly when he takes the mound. Brewers are 13-5 when it's Quintana, and the Detroit Tigers are 9-1 in Job starts.
Wow. I think it's interesting. Sonny Gray, ever since Basewinner did the Sonny Gray rap, I mean, he's been so profitable. I mean, I don't know. I think that's pretty cosmic, right? He's hypnotizing teams, Gil.
Would you like to do a reprise of that, Mark? No? Can't get you
Sunny, sunny, sunny. Can't you see the pitches you throw hypnotize teams? And I just love your strikeout rate. Gonna bet on you and gonna get paid. Dude, I'm telling you, he's the best in baseball. I mean, what more can you say?
You said it all, man.
That's crazy. So that's crazy, bro.
Interesting. There's the worst pitcher in baseball. If you just did this also, right? So Job is in the top 4, but if you just happen to back Jack Flaherty Tigers games, you'd be dead last. You'd be down 11.62 units according to covers, because the Tigers are only 7-17. He's had a miserable year. Fetty of the Braves, next worst, down 10 units. Verlander of the Giants, been a disaster. You'd be down over 10 units. Paddock and Soroka, 4 and 5 worst.
Yeah, and no truth to the rumor that I'm going to do a Billy Joel retake on Captain Jack for Flaherty to try to get his numbers up.
Do you see the documentary, Billy Joel documentary?
I watched the first part, and I thought it was good. My wife's like, dude, this is too long. I can't watch this. This is too serious for me. So I haven't watched the second part yet. I'm probably have to do that on my own. But I thought it was good.
It's fantastic. It is long though. It's a big commitment. All right, this is the nice thing about having you doing this, is because you have historical numbers on umpires. Now, for totals bettors, often for sides too, but this is really for totals bettors. Let's just go through the names of the umpires that have been, when they've called balls and strikes, when it's their turn to be behind home plate, games have gone over more often than not or gone under more often than not. We haven't filtered this for ballpark. We are just sort of looking at what the results are from this year, and I'm just trying to cross-check it with what Mark has historically, to just remind bettors, hey, if this umpire happens to be behind home plate, maybe you have a lean on an over and under, and they're the opposite in terms of their tendencies historically, maybe it should give you pause. Here are the most reliable in quotes, over umpires thus far this year in Major League Baseball. Chad Whitson, 8 of 9 times behind home plate, it's gone over. Jim Wolf, 8 of 9. 6 of 7, with Jim Wolf, over. Bill Miller, our old friend, 10 of 12 to the over this year. Ryan Wills, 9 of 11 to the over. Hanahan, 7 of 9. Livensparger, 9 of 12 to the over. Junior Valentine, 6 of 8 to the over. Doug Eddings, our boy, 8 of 11 to the over, as is Chris Guccione, 8 of 11 to the over. Same with Ryan Addington, 8 of 11 to the over. Adrian Johnson, 8 for 11 to the over. 8 out of 11 to the over. And Brennan Miller, the same, 8 to the over, only 3 to the under. Do any of those names match with being historically over umps?
The only guy that's close is Ryan Wills. Wills or Willis? It's Ryan Wills. He's up in the top 10 of over umpires. Interestingly enough, the Bill Miller thing, he's from a metric standpoint, he's one of the highest metric under umpires.
Interesting.
Yeah, because, and I don't know. So is that an up to date list that you're looking at? It seems like they've done more games than that. Maybe they haven't, but 10%. So his strikeout rate's 10% greater. This is, I think, how many games has this is over the last 3 years. So 64 games. And he has a 10% greater strikeout percentage, which would, I think, if you look at like a micro chart, like a chart of his strike zone, he calls a lot of ball strikes, so that makes sense. And then his walk rate's 10% worse than average. So for me, he is the highest under umpire, and so that just goes to show you that, sometimes you'll have an under umpire, it will go over. But I personally don't like to bet totals with, I would say, the top like 10% unders or 10% over umpires by those metrics. So for me, I usually wait from a betting standpoint to do totals until the second game of the series. Sometimes I'll bet the first game, but very rarely. I'd like to know who that's going to be, Gil.
I wonder if a dude like Bill Miller reads the press clippings or knows his record with that kind of stuff. If everybody ever whispers in his ear, hey, there's this betting thing, and you usually are an over guy, and maybe he adjusts. I have no idea. if that's the sort of thing. But it's definitely a change in his tendency. But just Ryan Will's a good name for people to know if you're thinking about betting an under in a game that he is behind home plate on.
Over for Wills, because he's
Yeah.
over with the and he's kind of over from a tendency standpoint too.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, I think this umpire thing, I'm thinking that they're going to go to the challenge system next year.
They've got
I really
to.
hope that it happens.
Got to.
Because and we talk about this on every podcast, and when you watch every game, it's not just like, hey, it's one game out of 6 that you bet on. It's every game. And I don't know if that's because the technology is better and we can just see it, or they've gotten worse. I don't know.
They're not getting better. I'll tell you that much. Ryan Will. So if you think about betting an under in a game where you see that he's behind home plate, and by the way, you can. Where's the Twitter account that you go to for this? StatFox used to be the spot, but where do you go now for umpire assignments?
It used to be umpire list. It's really easy to do, and that's why because you don't know who it's going to be for that first game. You don't know until you check out the game day on MLB on the first game. So you maybe know 15 minutes beforehand, but you always will know on the second, third, and fourth game of the series, because they rotate from the first base umpire will do the home plate game the next day. So it is clockwise.
Clockwise.
If you're looking. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And most reliable under umps thus far this year: Charlie Ramos, 7 of 7 under. Austin Jones, 12 of 13 under. Eric Backus, 8 of 9 under. Phil Cousy, we love Phil Cousy, 8 of 9 under. Corey Blazer, 10 of 12 under. Chris Siegel, 9 of 11 under. Nick Lentz, 9 of 11 over. And Brendan, oh, wait a minute. Didn't we have a Brendan Miller up here? See, these covers numbers.
There's a Bill Miller and a Brendan Miller. No, you're right. There's a
Brendan
Bill Miller
Miller
and a Brendan Miller.
Yeah, Brendan Miller to the under.
They're both under umpires. Now, Bill Miller more by my ratings. They're both Brendan Miller more so than others, than Bill Miller. But I believe me, because I've gotten it confused on data polls before.
So what's interesting about this with covers is they mess up the ump numbers, right? Because they have both Brendan Miller and Bill Miller as they have them reversed. They have them, 8 of 11 over and then 8 of 11 under. So they messed it up somehow. So maybe Bill Miller is still trending under. So with those two guys, they seem to have messed it up. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, but I think, and one of the things, the guys who get the chart that have been with me for years, that those are in those second, third, and fourth games, those are kind of put into the total numbers. And you'll notice that I'll play more totals, in those later parts of those series.
Yes.
Because it's important to me. So, but the one guy, Phil Cousy, he is 6th from an under standpoint, and he's in the under. So,
okay.
So that kind of jives on both parts, Gill.
So Phil Cousy, a reliable under ump. Again, you don't have to follow it blindly when games that he umps, but if you have a lean the other way, maybe it should give you pause, kind of thing. All right, let's get to first fives and first innings. This is the good stuff. First fives, Mark. So now this is, again, same bizarro exercise. These used to be first five stats. I used to have to do them manually back in the day. Imagine that when first five betting was not that rampant 10 years ago. It's still a pretty modern development in sports books. We take it for granted now. But 10 years ago, it wasn't that rampant. You had to track these manually. Then over the years, shout out to Odds Shark. They have sort of computed these, and they're available through OddsShark. But the best first five teams, again, same bizarre exercise. You bet on them every single first five, whether a favorite, whether a dog. Remember, there's obviously pushes involved in first five. Best team first five is, Mark? Any guesses?
Oh, you know what? I have a split for home and road. I'm going to say Detroit.
No. According to OddsShark, it is the Brewers by far. Brewers, 60, 34, and 25. So not only are they the best full game money line team, they're the best F5 team in baseball, and it's not particularly close. They will have won bettors almost 20 units first five. Most of those on the road, by the way. 15 of them on the road. You have the Tigers.
What was the thing? What was the totals on them? I just want to make sure that my poll's coming out, because I pull it for home and away, but I have to kind of manually add it. So what was the number for Milwaukee again? The line?
60, 34, and 25. First
Beautiful,
five.
man. It's coming in. It's coming in good. So I know I just have to. So Detroit, I have it at their raw score 61,
That's correct.
33, and 17. So that was a decent guess. I thought you
61.
You scolded me about my guess.
No,
I mean,
no,
shit,
no.
I thought that was a great guess.
No. I didn't mean to scold you. 61, 43, and 17. The problem is we're talking about the betting number, right? So Detroit's going to be a huge favorite in a lot of those, and maybe, I don't know if a Tarek Skubal one didn't get home or something. So obviously with the betting numbers,
right,
that's going to shake out differently.
Sure.
The Detroit Tigers are 7th in terms of you'd be up 3 units only. It should be pointed out with these first 5, there is only 8 teams in all of Major League Baseball where you would be profitable on the first 5. Because remember, the straddle is bigger on first 5 than it is on full game. So it is harder to beat with the straddle. And the Brewers would still have you up almost 20 units, 60, 34, and 25. The Angels are number 2. You'd be up 9 units. They're 48, 48, and 24. Remember, a lot of those, they're going to be a dog in. That's why you're up money. Number 3, Mark, I give you the stage. Who's number 3?
Hell, I don't know. Philly.
Chicago White Sox. There they are again. So they are the second worst team in baseball. They're 44 and 76. Only the Rockies are worse. Those are the real life standings. But if you had bet them first 5 every single game this year, you'd be up 7.24 units.
You know what's wild is they're actually
amazing.
Like straight up on the first 5 at home, 25, 19, and 17. So they're actually ahead.
That's right.
Just from a win-loss standpoint. 17 ties. That's a lot of ties at home.
That's right. So overall,
play the draw parlay on that one, Gill.
The draw parlay. Overall, first 5, they're 44, 51, and 25. But you're right, Mark. They've actually won 11.5 units with a 25, 19, and 17 record first 5 at home. They are actually below level on the road, 19, 32, and 8. You'd be down 4 units. But in the wash, you'd be up 7.25 units. And again, this is why baseball betting is so interesting. Second worst team in all of baseball. One of the third best first 5 team in all of baseball for bettors. This 2 years in a row they've done this. 2 years in a row.
So I'm going to tease the quarter 2 because we're not going to do one for the last quarter, but quarter 2 next year, quarter one rather. We're going to do which team first 5 draw parlay is the best. I will have that for everybody.
So the draw parlay. So to define that for people, they have a push after 5.
No, it'd be hard to do because you'd have to know who to parlay it with.
Yeah.
But we talked about it for soccer.
Right.
We're playing a draw parlay. 2 teams one team to draw, the next team to draw. I want draw parlays from Paul Carr. I enjoyed his segment. I always enjoy his segments, but I want to draw parlay by the end of the year. Just one. That's all I ask for.
By the way, 4th best F5 team, Diamondbacks. 5th best Cubs. 6th best Rangers, and then it's the Tigers. And only the Red Sox are 8th. Everybody else is negative, including the Reds, who you'd be down $1. By the way,
I thought that Arizona number was interesting too. The Arizona 37, 19, and 4 at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one we talked about this with the White Sox last year. Is just you can do the halftime full time bet, and I still think like the Diamondbacks. Their starting pitching is not awful, and they can hit good enough, but that bullpen can blow. So maybe that's a if you want to get a fun bet in a game to do the halftime Diamondbacks full time other team because the bullpen will blow it.
Well, I think these are the most interesting of all the stuff we do because you just pointed out the White Sox are the number 1 home of first 5 team in all of baseball for bettors. I mean, they're the second worst team in baseball. It's pretty incredible. The Rangers, who I just mentioned, are the 6th best first 5 team, money-wise, right? 58, 44, and 19 first 5. That makes sense because they're they're pitching in general, right? The Rangers, number 1 in ERA, number 1 in WHIP, number 1 in a lot of pitching categories, and we think of them for whatever reason as a team that can hit. They can't hit a lick. They had 1 month, July, where they hit tremendously well. And now they're back to just sucking it up, hitting wise. But pitching wise, they're solid. The worst.
Well, the key. What happens is when you bet on them you bet these teams to win the monthly bet, and then every other month with the time. But you know what? Props to you because you were ahead of the game on that monthly thing, and you did so good on it.
Not this
and
year.
It's a fun. Well, but you know what? I bet you turned on a lot of people to that market.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
It's fun to bet on that too.
But I had the Padres in May. Padres have the greatest bullpen in the world. What was the one month where they sucked in the bullpen? May. I had the Mariners last month. Consider them for this month. They're just behind the Brewers. So yeah, just the timing of all this stuff. Worst first 5 teams in baseball. Again, bizarro exercise. You bet them every single first 5, favorite or dog. Braves and Rockies, worst 2 again, just like the full game money line. Braves are actually worse than the Rockies first 5. Jeez. Then it's the Dodgers. Wow. Then it's the Dodgers, 3rd worst. Would you have predicted that?
No, I wouldn't have. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what their record is. Like
40,
let's see what
49, 50, and 21 first 5. But when you're a big when you're a huge favorite every time, right? That sucks. 49, 50, and 21.
And there's really not much of a distinguishment between home and road. This is wild. 27 and 26 first 5 at home.
Yep.
Wow. That's 9, and then the 9 draws. But that's I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years. But I'm looking at it right now, and you're telling me too. So
in fact, the White Sox are the best home F5 team in baseball. The Dodgers are the worst home first 5, just in terms of money, right? Because 27, 26, and 9, imagine how many times they were huge first 5 favorites. That's not going to cut it. Anyway, that stuff is always interesting. By the way, Cardinals and Nationals count down the top 5 worst in terms of first 5 betting. That first 5 betting stuff is it gives you a different way, a different prism through which to look at baseball betting, because it will give you. And I think it's not just a story, right? This stuff has been pretty sustainable. The White Sox first 5 thing has gone on for a year and 3 quarters now. And as bad as they are this year, they sucked even worse last year as a team. So it's pretty incredible what betting them that way. And what was that thing you uncovered last year? Certain books offer this double result, first 5 full game. And the White Sox last year were priced, I think we said on an average of 7-1 on those. And those hit, double digits amount of times, I believe, last year. I think you said like 18 times.
Yeah, no, they were paying I think they pay like 7-8-1, something like that. So depending on if they're home or on the road.
Yeah.
And so you can make a little bit of cash doing that. I wanted to say it's like I know Will was on your show earlier. Propping up Profit X. I'm wondering if they're doing first 5s, and if that's the one thing I'd like to see, a little bit more competition from a pricing standpoint on the first 5 lines, because you just got the straddle still pretty big, and you just thought, gosh, when this stuff became legal, you thought, hey, we're going to get better pricing, and I think it's gone the other way, Gill. I really do. But so shout out to the exchange. I know Sport Trade and Profit X are they're trying to change things, and that's cool. I think that's really cool.
Profit X has first 5s. I've bet them myself. They have first 5s. The one thing, by the way, and they're fantastic pricing, and obviously you can name your price and hope it gets matched. And more often than not, it does. The one thing with the exchanges that I will say, just to be sort of fair and balanced here, is the live betting is a risky thing, right? Because if you're making the market instead of taking, if you're offering a price on a live situation and you're not paying full attention, or you're on a lag or whatever it is, you might leave it up a result too late, right? Like someone could get a hit or something, and then someone grabs what you already offered before you had a chance to take it down. So I still have only stayed in the pre-flop area, but they do have first 5s. Yeah,
that's tough because of the speed. I noticed something. This is a really interesting thing. Like when I'm watching the game on my TV, on my computer, and I'm watching the same game on my TV, I have the same internet connection. One feed is faster than the other, so you got to be careful on that, I think. But let me just ask you this. I don't want to stray too far because I know we're kind of on a tight schedule, but. Are you finding liquidity? Are you able to get 5-inning bets down there pretty easily?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, yeah. It's way more. The big thing with these things was everybody was scared about liquidity. That has never been an issue. Never been an issue on these things. You would be amazed how much in handle is out there. It's incredible.
Well, no, that's good to know because I haven't really gotten involved in either one of them, and I think that's maybe something I should look at, especially if you're going to be playing these 5-inning. But I think that you can get someone on a particular game. I know Will does a lot of 5-inning betting, and so he seems to think the same way.
Yeah, he loves the plus half a run. That's the Willie special, we call it. Plus half a run first 5. So that's another way to play those. Let's go to the first inning. Let's wrap it up with the first innings. This is the most proprietary of all of them. And this is because there's a lot of people like to bet Yerfies and Nerfies, and they like to know what pitchers do performance-wise when they first take the hill. And we've been doing this from the inception too. So these are starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. I put this at the quarter 3 mark here, the third quarter mark, the quarter pole, if you will. I put this as minimum plate appearances 60 against. What did you put?
Okay, I have 40, but I got to just say this because when you were doing baseball for Dr. Bob, you talk about a pioneer. You call Dr. Bob a pioneer?
Yes.
Well, you were a pioneer in baseball statistics because you were doing this before you can get it at Fangraphs, and so you were doing it before Fangraphs did it though. So I'm gonna give you a pioneer reference.
You know when I say that, well, thank you, by the way. Jason Weingarten deserves a shout for these too. But let's say this with Bob. Whenever I call Bob the Pioneer, he's like, I don't like Pioneer, Gill. It makes me sound old. And I said, what do you prefer? He goes, I don't know, Legend. He said that on air one time. We're like, okay.
And he says it with a straight face.
Yes,
and you know what? There's not many guys, and some people think, well, what an a-hole. But you know what? He's got the clout to do it. There's not a lot of guys that I would say that, but Dr. Bob, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. Well, when Dr. Bob talks, I listen, right?
He's my guy. I'll see him tonight. He'll be here at Bet Bash. All right, first innings.
Beautiful.
First innings, minimum 60 plate appearances against. So let's do this based on opponents' on base percentage. Just the first innings. And I don't know what the Colorado Rockies are doing as an organization, but their starters are littered on this list, littered through this. Part of this is cores for sure, but part of this is they just suck at baseball, right? So number 1, Antonio Sensatella, opposing on base at 486. What are we doing?
It goes to show you how the lack of depth the Rockies have. I mean, and I've said this on your show, if you're betting Senzatella, you must be really smoking the Sensimilia because he's always up there. He's up there every time we look, right? 486 on base percentage, worst, number 1 in a bad way in baseball. And they just keep trotting the guy out.
Oh, dude.
So I guess that shows you the depth, right?
They have 3 on the top 10. He's first, 486 against. Kyle Freeland, 7th worst, 415 against. Herman Marquez, 10th worst, 396 against. I mean,
and they have, Blaylock, and because you go to 60, I go 40. Blaylock has 43 total batters faced. He's 3rd worst. So they've got the gold and the bronze in a bad way. Good job. Say hot, Colorado.
I mean, and I get it. Some of it's cores, but you can't keep rolling out the same dudes year after year and expect different results. It's ridiculous. So anyway, at the top, Sensatella, 486 against. Jonathan Cannon of the White Sox, number 2. That's interesting. We just talked about how good they were first 5. He's 448 against first innings. 448 on base percentage against. Jack Kohanowitz, 3rd. 430 against. Jake Irvin of the Nationals, 419 against. And then Walker Buehler. Oh, one of these names is not like the other. Walker Buehler, man. Remember when he was the Dodgers ace? 418 against on the Red Sox. Man.
And he still didn't go to Texas, where he could have been Walker, Texas Ranger. But okay, you know what? I wanted to talk about the away one because you can filter it on Fangraphs away. So Sensatella's worse on the road than he is at home. He's 509 OBP on the road. 53 batters faced. Wow, that's pretty brutal.
That is brutal. Okay, this is now the best first inning pitchers in all of baseball. Best first inning pitchers, just in terms of opponent on base percentage. Do you have any idea who number 1 is, minimum 60 plate appearances against?
I've got it all because they all have 60 plate appearances, but it's surprising to me.
Yes.
I have David Peterson. Yeah.
David Peterson. I did not expect that name. David Peterson of the Metropolitans, 188 against. Now, what's interesting is at the top, it's a bunch of just gas cans. But at the bottom here, it's usually big names and they always check out, right? So Peterson is interesting that he's in there. Then it's Wheeler, then it's DeGrom, then it's Skubal, right? So it's Peterson's 188, Wheeler 190, DeGrom 190, Skubal 200, opposing base percentage, I should say. So that's, by the way, when you get into batting average, David Peterson is 122 against. Ranger Suarez 117 against. But just in terms of OBP, Peterson won at 188, Wheeler and DeGrom at 190, and then Skubal at 200, along with Noah Cameron also at 200. Didn't expect that name.
Yep, those are the top 5. It feels so good to bet on Jacob DeGrom. Still, it does. It's like I can almost bet on him every time he shows up.
Though I've somehow run into a couple of his starts. One pretty recently, I think on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, when I think they were playing the Mariners, where he just got beat up by the long ball. Like 3 Mariners hit home runs against him. So he's got that in him too, every once in a while. There was nothing like when he first came up though. Whew. Before the betting lines.
There was a game, and I remember, and people were like, Basewinner, how can you? He's like minus 400. I said, I don't care. He's going to win. And he lost. It was the Cubs. They got 2 hits. One was a bunt single, and one was a home run. And the guy struck out like 13 guys. And, oh, man, Basewinner, how could you do that? I said, I'm going to bet that every time. So, usually when you strike out double digits, you win. But there's guys that feel really good to bet on. And DeGrom, he's there. He's my guy.
And when before he became Jacob DeGrom, on his first season with the Mets, when the betting lines hadn't caught up to how good he was, that was even more incredible at that time. Just cash cow. So of all this, full game run line, money line, run line, umpires, obviously first 5s and first innings. I mean, there's some stuff in there. Again, the umpires know their tendencies, the ones that we mentioned. I think that first 5 stuff to me still, because even with the first innings, the way that I used to bet them when I did it before it sort of exploded and everybody's betting Nerfies. I mean, everybody's betting Nerfies on this stuff. We didn't even call it that, right? I would just bet a lot of, yes, a run will be scored when aces were facing each other. It's not priced quite the same as it used to be. And it's not really necessarily how I went about it. I wasn't as concerned with what the starting pitchers was doing, although some people prefer to hear this, as that's how they do it. I think more than that, the first 5 stuff is the most fascinating to me, because that allows you to just kind of completely rejigger how you feel about baseball. Like, oh, the White Sox suck in real life, but here's a betting cash cow. Not a cash cow, but here's a solid betting thing. And so there's a lot of that. I'm not sure what your biggest.
The Dodger thing. I'm with you on that, but it's like the other ways. I watch the Dodgers almost every. I love at Chavez Ravine. I love the way the sun sets there, and Joe Davis is doing a good job. He's not quite Vin, but Vin in his day, and Joe Davis is doing a great job. And so I always like watching the game as the sun sets there, and that's surprising to me. I do this every day for a living, and that's still really surprising to me. So that you could bet against the Dodgers in the first 5 and be very profitable.
Let's close with this, because a lot of people like to hate on the Yankees and hate on the Dodgers. They're very easy to hate on, and in both cases, given their historical success and how folks tend to hate those kinds of franchises, and a lot of it they've brought on themselves with just the rich getting richer. But you feel, because a lot of people think the Yankees are going to miss the playoffs. A lot of people think, and I do, maybe the Dodgers don't win the division. But you're kind of bullish still on both of the teams, the Yankees and the Dodgers, right, by your numbers.
Yeah, I have the Dodgers, for all. And I wouldn't think that I would support the Dodgers that much, because, I was all over the Diamondbacks early. But but the component comparison, number 2 in baseball, 5.07 projected runs, 3.91 runs suppression number, which is the best in baseball. Their differential 1.16, very close to Seattle. Seattle's at 1.18. The next team would be the Mets at 1, and then the Yankees are fourth at 0.87. So that's taking a look at bullpens, fielding, offense, and starting pitching, and then assigning a run number. And that's what I use to generate the simulation skill.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're still. I mean, they're really good, and I don't know if we've really seen the best, and I think the market kind of feels the same way. I mean, they're the favorite. I think that they're kind of an over favorite personally, but they still have the components that if they win the World Series, it's certainly not going to be a surprise to me, Gil.
No, I don't think it would. I don't think it would be a surprise to anybody. But you know how we live this every day, and people like to react to recency, and so right at this moment in time, it feels like, you know, these teams are down, and there's so much baseball to be played. A quarter of the regular season. Our thoughts on this could change dramatically. But that's what makes it so interesting, because there's so many different markets to bet. We were looking, Kelly Bidlin and I, on a numbers game on the radio side this morning. We were looking at the odds to become the number 6 seed. So in other words, the third wild card, the last team in the American League and National League. You can bet those. Those are interesting markets. I think it comes down to the Mets and the Reds in the NL, and then the AL is a complete free for all. So,
dude, I have this right in front of me. My simulation seed percentages. You were saying the Mets you like.
So National League, I feel like it comes down to either the Mets or the Reds.
Okay, Mets 47.6%. Reds, I don't like the Reds, so I'm only getting 5.6%. The other team that could get involved in there by my numbers would be the Padres, but they're only at 15%. So I think the Mets would be a pretty darn good play there.
And
you were saying they're like plus 150 or something like that?
Yeah, they are the short shot. They are the obvious one. By the way, the knock on the Reds, even though the Reds were 5-1, the Reds are 2 games out. The Reds have the hardest remaining schedule in all of baseball, so that's the knock against betting them for the number 6 seed. The American League is, and it follows that you would have the Padres as next if you think the Dodgers are still going to beat them in that division. The American League, I was saying this morning, as clear as you can make it about the Mets in the NL, it's a complete mess, right? It's a complete scrum in the AL. So I'd be curious to see what you have number 6 seeds for that.
It's pretty wide open. The team that has the highest probability is the Red Sox, 28.9%.
Yep.
And then the next highest team, and I actually have them, I have them with an 86% chance to make the playoffs. We talk about the Yankees, but a 14.5% to be the 6th seed would be the Yankees. They're number 2. And then the Texas Rangers at 12.6%. That's kind of how it shakes out. And the Guardians at 13%. So right there. So it's like you said, it's kind of wide open.
So yeah. So the Red Sox are the short shot. I think the Yankees are second. If there's any value in your numbers, it's probably the Rangers at 7-1. But even that is, 12%.
It sounds like it's priced right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Even that is not like the greatest value based on your numbers. So those are. It's amazing. Those are priced very similar to what your percentages are. Generally, pretty similar. So anyway,
and the sports books on those seeding bets, they get an advantage because of the hold. But
yes,
so you're not going to get the best price, but you can still. I think with these futures, I think there's still spots you can get value.
Yeah.
And I have one question to ask you. This is: do you watch any Mets baseball?
Not any more than I do any other team. What about it?
Well, the interest, I wanted to see what your take is, because you're my same age, and it reminds me of what they have, like this fade in where they'll show the batter and the pitcher at the same time, and it reminds me of like a early '80s, late '70s split screen. I don't know if you've seen that, but every time I watch it, I'm like, gosh, well, they've taken the broadcast back 40 years. So anyway, keep an eye out for that.
Oh, they were doing something like that when there was some anniversary broadcast they did where they purposefully did the shots the way that they did them 50 years ago or whatever it was. So I wonder if part of that held over and they're like, let's just keep this and start doing this again.
They'll do like a split screen where they'll show the pitcher and they'll show the batter, and they'll split the screen, and it just every time I watch it, then there'll be a shot. Like there was one yesterday where they kind of faded in on Alonso after he hit a home run, and I was like, wow, man, that's old school.
Do you think anybody today in today's day and age is like, fiending to see it that way? Or are you like, geez, this is the worst. Why would they show it this way?
I think it's pretty bad, actually.
Yeah,
but
I do too.
It's nostalgic. So
it is nostalgic.
Maybe it shows you what the demographics are. Hopefully we can get some younger people in here.
It's super nostalgic, but it's also annoying because they'll do the split screen of the starter and the guy taking a lead off first on a split screen. I'm like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see it done this way. I want the camera behind, in center field. I want to see if the pitch is a strike or a ball.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the StatCast. So the StatCast broadcast on Sunday Night Baseball, I think that was the last one was on Sunday, the Cardinals Cubs game. If you guys haven't watched that, that's a recommendation. It's fun to watch.
All right, Mark, appreciate it. Mark Borchard, everybody. I don't even know if I said your name at the beginning. Mark Borchard at Basewinner, Basewinner.com, and the Bet US show, which is at what time every day for you, Mark?
It's at 8 every day, Pacific time. I don't know if that changes though. So it's 8 o'clock, no matter what.
Okay.
So yeah, sometimes it changes for me. So we go head to head against your show. But here's the beauty of it is you can watch our show either later or Gill's show either later, depending on your preference, who you want to get live. And either way, you win, right? If you get both of our shows, you win. It's a win-win situation, literally, Gill.
Well said. Mark, appreciate it. Hope hope you all got something out of that. Next podcast, a week from now, roughly. We're still working on when the U.S. Open draw is coming out. We'll do it right after Drew Dinsick, Zach Cohen, and I, the U.S. Open Tennis's Final Slam. Thank you for listening, and good luck with all your bets.